People came to the bathhouse at Ashkelon to wash, to rest, to sit around and talk. Completely normal building, completely normal Roman town. Below the floor ran the sewer. Ordinary drain, ordinary garbage, the kind of place nobody thinks about twice. In 1988, archaeologists climbed down into it and started pulling out bones, tiny ones. By the time they finished counting, they had the remains of nearly 100 newborn babies. For a while, researchers thought they knew what they were looking at. They had a theory, and the theory told them exactly what the DNA would say. The DNA said the opposite. One test turned a solved case back into an open one, and decades later, nobody has managed to close it again. Nearly 100 newborns, one ancient sewer. The discovery happened in 1988. Ashkelon had been a real city for thousands of years, a busy port on the Mediterranean coast, and archaeologists were working through a sewer under a building from the late Roman and early Byzantine period. At first, they found the usual buried junk: broken pottery, animal bones, old coins, the ordinary garbage of daily life. Then, they found something else: human bone, and very small. Small enough that, at a glance, it could have passed for an animal. It didn't. It was a baby. And it wasn't just one. As the dig went on, the count kept climbing toward 100. Most of the little skeletons were in good shape. Bones from all over the body were there, which told the researchers something grim. These were whole bodies that had gone into the sewer soon after death. Nobody had buried these babies. They'd been dropped in with the trash. Fact: nearly 100 infant remains were found in the sewer. So why were nearly 100 babies in one sewer? The first ideas were the obvious ones: some kind of disaster, a disease that swept through the city maybe, a war, or a famine bad enough that children starved. Each of those was reasonable. Each of them also had the same problem. A plague doesn't kill only newborns. A war leaves behind bodies of every age. A famine takes toddlers and grown adults too, not just infants a day or two old. The sewer didn't work like that. The bodies in it fit a very narrow window. Almost every one of them was the same age. That one detail sent the researchers back to the bones and the teeth. A baby's teeth start forming before it's even born. And when a baby is born, the shock of birth itself can leave a faint line in the tooth enamel. Scientists call it a neonatal line. If the line is there, the baby lived at least a few days. If it's missing, the baby probably died right at birth. The Ashkelon babies didn't have it. Their bones and teeth pointed to the same conclusion over and over. These infants had died at birth or within a day or two of it. There were no older babies mixed in, no 3-month-olds, no 1-year-olds. That mattered more than it might sound. It meant the sewer wasn't the town's sad resting place for dead children in general. It was being used for one specific group: babies who never got more than a day or two of life. Fact: newborns, not older children. That pattern pushed researchers toward a much darker word: infanticide, the killing of newborn children. The bones couldn't say how the babies had died. No cut marks, no broken skulls, nothing pointing to a weapon. But that silence didn't clear anyone. A lot of ways to kill a newborn leave nothing at all on the skeleton. A baby can be smothered, or drowned, or left outside in the cold with no food and no warmth. Hundreds of years later, the bones look the same either way. So the researchers were stuck with what they could actually see: nearly 100 newborns, all the same age, all in the same sewer, none of them buried. It looked like something done on purpose, again and again. Theory: the babies may have been deliberately killed or abandoned. To make sense of it, the researchers turned to what the Romans themselves wrote down. Some ancient writers described families deciding they didn't want a baby and getting rid of it. The reasons varied. Money was one. Shame was another. Sometimes it came down to the child's health, or the family situation, or the baby's sex. And a few of those old texts suggest sons were valued over daughters. So the researchers made a reasonable guess. If unwanted babies were being abandoned, and if daughters were worth less to a Roman family than sons, then most of the Ashkelon babies should turn out to be girls. Grim theory. But it fit what people thought they knew about the Roman world. There was only one way to check it. The bones of a newborn can't easily tell you if it was a boy or a girl. The skeleton is just too young. So the researchers needed something the bones alone couldn't give them. They needed DNA. The first guess: mostly girls. The team picked out 43 thigh bones, left thigh bone specifically, one from each skeleton, so they'd never accidentally test the same baby twice. Then reality got in the way. Ancient DNA falls apart over time, and a lot of these samples were simply too damaged to read. Out of 43 bones, only 19 gave a clear result. They ran the tests again to be sure. The numbers held. 5 of the 19 were female, 14 were male. That's almost 3 boys for every girl. The theory had predicted girls. The DNA came back mostly boys. Now, that number comes with a big warning attached. 19 babies is a small slice of nearly 100, and there's no guarantee the rest of the sewer matched it. But even as a slice, the result was strange enough to send everyone looking for a new explanation. Why would anyone throw away more boys than girls? One theory connected the remains to the building above the sewer. Some Roman bathhouses were also linked to private adult services. Because of this, a few researchers suggested that the bathhouse at Ashkelon may have been used for more than bathing. The theory was based on a simple idea. Women working in the building may sometimes have had children. Girls may have been kept because they could later become part of the household or business. Boys may have been seen as less useful to the people in charge. This idea seemed to match the DNA results, which showed more boys than girls among the successful tests. It also suggested something deeply troubling. The people running the building may have decided which children were worth keeping. But there was one major problem. There is no direct evidence that this actually happened. Theory: the newborns may have been connected to women who worked in the building. The theory became popular because it seemed to explain everything. It gave a reason for why more boys appeared in the DNA results, and it connected the remains to the building above. But the evidence was not as strong as it first seemed. First, the sewer may not have been directly connected to the bathhouse. The bathhouse was built over older buildings, and some objects linked to private adult activity may have come from those earlier structures. Second, the DNA sample was small. Researchers tested 43 bones, but only 19 gave clear results. 14 of those were male. That may reflect the full group, but it may also be the result of which bones were preserved well enough to test. There was another problem. No surviving document says that the people using the building kept girls but rejected boys. The idea is possible, but possible does not mean proven. The sewer may also have collected waste from several nearby homes and businesses. This means the newborns may have come from different places. They may not have died during the same year. The remains could have entered the sewer slowly, one at a time, over many years. The closer researchers looked, the more questions appeared. Unknown. Was the bathhouse really connected to private adult activity? So after everything, what do we actually know for sure? A few things. Nearly 100 newborn babies ended up in an ancient sewer. They almost certainly died at birth or within a day or two of it. None of them got a proper grave, and of the 19 that could be tested, 14 were male. That's the solid ground. Everything past it gets soft. We don't know how the babies died, who their parents were, or who carried the bodies down into the sewer. We don't know why more of the tested ones were boys. The brothel theory might be exactly right. It might also be a tidy story built on a very small sample. The evidence just doesn't let anyone close the case. Maybe the most disturbing possibility of all isn't a single cruel person working in the shadows. The cruelty here may have been ordinary, a routine, carried out by many hands over many years, done to victims who had no power, no names, and no place in anything anyone chose to write down. The Romans recorded their emperors and their wars, their temples and their famous families. The sewer recorded the people history decided not to keep. Nearly 100 newborns, 19 sets of results, and a mystery that only got harder to explain the more science looked at it. Above the floor, an ordinary building where people came to wash and rest and pass the time. Below it, the part of the story nobody was ever supposed to find. Their names are unknown. The reason is still debated. Thank you for watching Pluviophile Stories. Stay curious.